The Proclamation on the Family is the sexiest document that there's ever been.
Yeah.
Because it teaches men how to be an equal partner to a woman.
Sex is God's idea. It's not Satan's. But he wants you to think it is. Hey, honey, is this a good time to talk about our sex life?
And I think every man will go, yes.
Giving ourselves permission to have a really good orgasm as often as possible.
I think everyone has asked themselves, how often should we be having it?
This is so bad. I can't believe I'm about to say this. When the scriptures talk about submitting to each other, we have man and woman submitting to one another in marriage. I think for the woman's part, submitting to your husband is a commandment to enjoy it. Because, I mean, maybe I'm the only one who's heard this, but have you heard that the woman's most important sex organ is her brain?
Yep.
And so it's almost like saying, submit to the experience, assuming he's earned it, as he has submitted to God. If he has submitted to God, submit to him, submit your mind to it so that you can climax, so that you can have a good time. So the scriptures are really commanding us to orgasm.
All of the scriptural references used in this episode will be brought to you by scripturenotes.com. For a free trial to Scripture Notes, please visit the link in the description. Just say it. Go.
I just really want to know about sex. I want to know exactly how this works when you have a couple sitting in front of you.
Here, we're going to draw a picture here. With your permission, Susanna, I'm going to draw a picture right here.
How this works. Woo! So, I mean, let's just get to it because we've had our clinical conversation, and I really just want to know, what does it look like, especially when you're sitting in front of a couple who potentially is LDS, and they're coming to you because they saw that you went to BYU, Idaho. So they're like, bing, she's going to understand us, number one. Number two, when a spouse says, but he wants to do this and whatever. And he's like, but hello, it's my right and it's my duty to be able to make sure this, whatever it is. Like I can go on and on about that conversation.
So now we're
what do you
getting
do?
into sex specific. So now we're getting into sex specific therapy. So we want to know how that goes. Do we want to go that direction, or do you want to talk about your dissertation first?
I'm happy talking about answering these questions and talking about sex therapy.
Brooke is going to pop if we don't
I
start
am just
talking
telling
about
you,
this.
I'm
Okay.
biting my tongue. It's almost half off right now. Like my tongue's like,
Well, let's
Blood
get into
dripping
it.
down your chin.
I'm foaming at the mouth. I
Yes.
just need to know.
So,
I'm dying to know.
This might be a humorous disclaimer, but sex therapy is talk therapy, just to clear the air. So there's
Okay, thanks for sharing,
funny.
because that's on
Yeah.
my list of things. I can cross that one off. Not doing anything crazy in the sessions.
Right.
Moving on. Next.
Well, believe it or not, sometimes people do have that belief, and so
I wondered.
So anyway,
I
it's
honestly
talk
wondered. Okay.
yeah. So
I love it.
so let's say an LDS couple comes in, and I say, how can I help? And they say, well, we're having sexuality, issues. There's many different kinds. So I would want to be really specific about what those issues are. So let's take, for example, a desire discrepancy. That's the most common sexual concern why people might go to therapy. It's like, my husband wants to have sex all the time and I don't, or my husband doesn't want to have sex and I do, right? So there's this discrepancy between them about frequency. And so how I would handle that is I'm asking a lot of questions about, how did the sexual relationship start? Right? Because if there was a really unpleasant honeymoon experience, that's significant. We want to figure out, if was there empathy when it went poorly? What happened? What did you think? Right? Is the desire discrepancy just that they have different types of desire? So what that means is that men, their sexual desire is just run by testosterone. It runs their life, right? So they see their wife and they go, wow, what are you doing later? It is a quick thing, typically. For women, oftentimes they have what's called responsive desire. It's in a response to something contextual, like touch, like he's really being empathetic and really, you feel really understood by him. So that context, she's like, ooh, what are you doing later?
Or like if your husband fixes something and you're like, yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got
right?
you. I got you,
Right?
girl.
Yeah. So here's what's really hot. When you come home from church, roll up your white sleeve on your shirt and make food.
Oh, that is so sexy.
So true.
I'm telling you right now, that is
Then-
so sexy. 100%.
Then wash the dishes, and she'll be like, "Bam!"
Oh, yeah. We're having
I'm
child
watching
number
you, brother.
25 after that. Honey, listen, you know that when somebody has 15 kids, you absolutely know Honey Bunches of Oats is in there doing the dishes, cooking, everything. Like the mow's lawn. I can't even.
Mhm.
The lawn is mowed and the kids are all dressed, hair's done, and your husband's actually braiding your daughter's hair, working on number 16.
Right. Right. That's a thing. It's a thing. I think in
100%.
the research they call it, and I might get strong, but it's all right. I want to say it's called like the daddy effect, or something to that effect. Is like when a woman sees her husband being nurturing, so nurturing kids, nurturing the grandkids. He's cooking. He's doing dishes. There's this like relief, because in my view, the meaning is you care about me. You see the work, and you're an equal partner with me. I don't have to tell you. I don't have to feel like your mom. You see me as an equal, that we're all doing this family thing together. And wow, that's so great. It's just,
So this is something super interesting. And I've got a lot of hot takes here, and I'm glad we have a professional in the room who can set me straight if I'm crazy. But
Okay.
I think that where do I start? I think that women need to be taken care of in order to feel sexy, in order to feel like an equal partner. Otherwise, if we're doing too much of the taking care of, or the like nagging, or the guiding and leadership in the home, we feel like the mom.
Yes.
And dating your son is not hot.
It's not sexy.
That's
No.
not sexy. And so in a sense, in order for a woman to feel like an equal partner,
Yeah.
you may need a man who presides, and protects. So I think the Proclamation on the Family is the sexiest document that there's ever been.
Yep.
Because it teaches men how to be an equal partner to a woman. Not how to be better than her, but how to be someone that she can desire as a partner. Because she's already doing things. She's already lifting loads. And she needs somebody who's going to lift the load with her. And men need the message to lift the load so that men or women can have a partner in them. And I think, so when I hear, this is so bad. I can't believe I'm about to say this on an episode.
Say it, girl.
It's
Get
going
it
to go
out.
on the internet.
Spit it out.
But when I hear women who say things like, women need to have more responsibility in the church, more priesthood obligations and duties and responsibilities and visibility, I hear women who haven't learned how to take pleasure, symbolically, how to take pleasure in being, in receiving, in receiving something. And if you think about,
I know who's calling.
This is where it's getting like, I'm just going to start going. Okay, and you're going to have to reel me in here, Susanna. So I think that men's bodies are built to give and to take pleasure in giving something. And women have two sex organs, one that gives and one that receives. And the most pleasurable is receiving, where we, and so there's something to be learned about receiving as a woman, and then learning to take pleasure in receiving. Am I on the right track? Is this
I think you had something too, Tikla, with learning to receive it. I think that's something in our church where not necessarily that we are taught this way, but I think sex for such a long time in our growing up years, it's taboo talk, right? We've all been in that youth fundraiser or youth fireside where it's like, oh, like write down any questions and they're anonymous. And you always get a few sex questions, right? Because everyone kind of wants to know, but no one wants to talk about it. And then all of a sudden you're married and it's like, go for it. And I think that's hard for a lot of people, especially in our faith, because we obey the law of chastity and, we're taught that sex is such a, a special only between, a married man and woman. I think for especially women, I think it's hard to learn and to feel okay with that sex is good. I think sometimes people feel like sex is not something to be enjoyed, and that's the complete opposite. Like we are built to enjoy this.
Yep.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes. Tikla, you bring up a really important part of sexuality when we talk about receiving, right? So in a sexual encounter, that's ideal. There's giving and receiving with both, so husband and wife, since we're talking about Latter-day Saint marriages. There's giving and receiving. And receiving is a very vulnerable thing to do. It's a very vulnerable thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I see in my practice is when a wife really struggles with that, she might have a lot of anxiety and not be able to be present because it's like, I got to think about the milk. I got to think about the kids. I got to and there's not this like, I'm going to be present and make eye contact with my husband and really be known, really be seen, really receive. That's a very vulnerable thing to do. It takes a lot of trust. And that's when it's important to talk about the relationship. Does that marriage have really good trust? And her nervous system needs to know she can trust him. Because if he's been, let's just say some things I've seen in my practice, let's say he's been harsh with the kids that day or with her, and it's hurt her heart, hurt her feelings, right? Her nervous system isn't going to go, oh, yes, I can relax and enjoy sexual pleasure right now. It's going to be like, oh. Our nervous system has to be relaxed in order for climaxing to happen. You can't have a nervous system going, ooh, and then also have a sexual response. Your nervous system is like, no, we've got to get out of here. We've got to run.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which reminds me of something I've thought about too, which is when the scriptures talk about submitting to each other, we have man and woman submitting to one another in marriage. I think for the woman's part, submitting to your husband is a commandment to enjoy it. Because, I mean, maybe I'm the only one who's heard this, but have you heard that the woman's most important sex organ is her brain?
Yep.
And so it's almost like saying submit to the experience, assuming he's earned it, as he has submitted to God. If he has submitted to God, submit to him, submit your mind to it so that you can climax, so that you can have a good time. So the scriptures are really commanding us to orgasm, I believe.
Boom. Can I just do a mic drop right now? Okay.
Is the tagline of the show.
100%. And there's the elephant right there.
I just say it how I see it.
Wow. Buckle up.
My mouth is dropped. I'm catching flies. That was amazing.
Yeah. Tikla, you talked about what I call decision fatigue that I see every day with wives. And that is that she's making decisions all day, every day, whether she has children in the home or she's working outside the home, and it's decide, and take care of people's needs, and take care. And then, there's this fatigue, and then it's 10:30 at night, and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, sleeping. That's what I'm doing.
But what would you counsel her to say in that moment? And what do you counsel the husband to do to have a different response in that moment? Because that's common and unless she can separate her day to submitting, as Tikla would say, and what do you counsel them in that moment?
What I do. So let's just assume they're both on the couch, right? And I'm seeing both of them. I would encourage her to get clear and comfortable with expressing her thoughts and needs. That might sound easy. For some people it is. For some people it is. For some women it is. But many women struggle with, that would be selfish. It would be selfish if I said, I have decision fatigue and I can't be aroused because that I'm so uncomfortable. If I'm her, my imaginary client, I'm so uncomfortable expressing that because I think that means I'm selfish. So then I'm not going to express it. And the danger is too big of a word, but the risk, I guess, in that idea will lead to duty sex, where I hear wives say, well, I just have sex because I know he needs it. That's not very erotic.
Yeah.
No.
I can't imagine that a husband would love that. I mean,
yeah, he wouldn't like that either. So
no, he's just like, wow.
Getting her mentally present and doing the chore play, or the things you talked about, like the daddy effect, like all those things brings her mind and her body more to the bedroom so that they both can have a much better experience. So it's in the husband's interest to have that conversation and to do those things. Because
What were you saying, Brooke?
Well, I was just going to say, how much conversation do you think that a couple should have prior to marriage about their what they think their needs are if they're if they haven't had sex before, if they're virgins and they're looking to have a forever marriage? What do you suggest that a man and woman would talk about prior to, and what shouldn't be off the table in that conversation so that two people understand what that looks like? Because I have heard that potentially within the church, people some people don't have conversations with their children about sex. And so they get married and now they're going, well, you didn't tell me I should talk about it. So what would you say to a couple who's younger and choosing to get married about what to talk about?
What to do? Laura Brotherson wrote an excellent book called And They Were Not Ashamed. And I think she's got 3 chapters in the middle there that are really great chapters to kind of get that conversation going. That would be a great resource that I recommend Laura Brotherson, because I never question where she stands with the church. And so that's something I would recommend there, so that they have something, they know what to even talk about, right? Especially if there's a lot of anxiety, like if I say sex, is that going to mean that we're going to just not live the law of chastity because just so also, to answer your question, the topics would be things like, what are your expectations about sex? That would be a great question to ask your partner, your future spouse. Like, what are your expectations?
So nobody needs to be worried about having a conversation about sex and then that really being construed as, soft porn. I don't know.
Well, and I think you hit the nail. Like, I don't know. I have 2 kids, and Car and I have already given them the sex talk, but it's like super basic. I mean, my son is 11, and we gave him the talk maybe a year or 2 ago, and it was just kind of like, look, girls have a puzzle piece and males have a puzzle piece, and when you put the puzzle together, it forms a baby. And it was like as basic as that. So, and like as he gets older, we're going to have more and more in-depth conversations, because I don't want him to get to a point, like Brooke was saying, where he's going to get married and he's like, can I not talk about it? Like, am I going to is she going to think I'm bad, or like a playboy, or, whatever it is. So I think it starts, I mean, it's so cliche, but it starts with us, to change like the narrative and like talk about sex in a healthy way and as an educational way. That's why I love that you're coming on here, because it goes back to what I was saying. I think in the church, sex is a taboo topic that no one really wants to talk about. No one wants to talk about their struggles with it. No one wants to talk about their climaxes and their great orgasms. No one wants to talk about it because it's like, oh, ew, oh, like I don't want to hear it. But then I think when we are like authentically talking about it and helping each other, I think a lot of problems would be solved. Like, who was that prophet that said, like, I wish more couples were out of my office and in the bedroom, like their marriage would be solved,
That's my favorite prophet. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is. I could guess.
I think it was Kimball. Yeah. Was it Kimball Carden?
It might have been.
I don't know.
I think it's so important for when we do have any sort of conversation about sex with our kids to be so happy and positive about that.
Yes.
I mean, I was listening to like Elder Holland's talk, Soul Symbols and Sacraments, which was amazing, but I was a little frustrated. Like the first half was so down, like, oh, society's so doesn't treat it well and it can be so hard. Like, I wish he had just started by saying, sex is great. I'm so excited for you all to get married and have this amazing experience with your spouse and rave about it first, and then maybe say, and society's not handling it that well, and then get into like the deep theology. Like, it began so heavy. And so I think that whenever we do talk about sex, it should just be very happily with joy, and get that emotion always associated when we talk about sex. And also, I think that as church leaders, we can talk about it too and be positive about it. Okay, so one summer when I was at girls' camp, one of my leaders was pregnant, and it was like their sixth child. And she said, oh yeah, I'm throwing up all the time, but it's great because my breasts are really huge and my husband just loves them. I don't even understand. Like, it's so funny. Husbands just love breasts. And she just like giggled and was just laughing so hard. And I did too. And that comment just really stuck with me because it was just like such a happy thing. And I didn't really talk about sex with my parents at all. And so just hearing such a happy comment from a young women's leader has always stuck with me. Like, oh, you just have this fun relationship with each other's bodies. I love that. I'm really looking forward to it.
I have taught 9 young women's lessons on chastity because I've served in young women's a lot, and I always claim the lesson. I always, can I please teach
I
the
actually love
chastity
that lesson too.
for the year? And I started out by saying, sex is so good. It's so good. I hope you're so excited for the day when you get to experience that when you're married, because it's incredible. And the reason we keep it so protected and private and safe is because of how incredible it is. And I can't wait for you to experience it. And then we, talk about everything else. But I think, to Charlotte's point, we sometimes, and I don't even think it's all from a lack of positive experience in our parents or what have you. I had an incredible set of parents who taught so openly and so warmly and beautifully. I think also it's not just a church problem. I think generally people are bad at teaching their children about sex. It's not just a church thing.
Yes.
This is just a hard thing to accomplish. And so, but
there are not only LDS sexologists.
Right. Well, if anything, ours are the
sexologists
best.
for everybody.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going with that, but back to you, Susanna.
Yeah, this is a great conversation and a really good book. If because I think your listeners are going to be like, well, yeah, where, how, what? I just am hoping I find the right title, but it's written by BYU authors, and I believe it's called A New Way to Talk to Your Child About Sex. Anyway, I don't want to. I think that's what it's called, but I don't want to spend time like sitting here on my phone looking for it. But the author is Shalom Levitt, Dean Busby. There's a picture of a heart on the front. So maybe just that's enough of a descriptor that people can just Google that. Anyway, my point is that that's a great resource for Latter-day Saint families to be like, okay, how, where, when, how do I talk to my kids about sex in a healthy way? Especially if they're coming from families of origin that were just more anxious and just maybe didn't know how, or maybe thought it was bad, or just whatever. We make a lot of mistakes, right? Being parents. So that's a great resource to just know where do I start, right? I think another thing that's important to keep in mind is talking about sex with your child that's child appropriate for who they are and where they are. In other words, some people aren't their biological age, right? So you know what I mean by that? So like if somebody is 12, but they're really more 10 as far as like their understanding and, that as a mom, it's more child specific than it is age specific in my opinion. And a great way to even just start the conversation is, hey kiddo, what do you know about sex? Now, they might go, oh my gosh, am I in trouble? They might get anxious. And so it can be really helpful to say, you're not in trouble. You're not in trouble. I just want to have this important conversation with you, but it's okay. You're not in trouble. I just want to know what you know so that we can talk about this important thing. It's okay.
Yeah. Savannah, I love that. I love how you say ask first with what they know. Like even when someone hears your LDS, like you're a Mormon, it's always good to say, well, what do you know? So that you know like where to start from if they think you're crazy or if they know nothing about you. Like, what do I need to address? So there's so many we see things online of antis saying Alyssa Grenfell, for example, in her book How to Leave the Mormon Church, she's like, I had this bishop who said every man sees every woman, like imagines every woman naked. And so that had like stuck in her head and like ate at her soul. And for so long, if he even said that, I don't know how true that is, that that's what he said or that's what she interpreted. But even at the point where when she was married, she freaked out at her husband when they were going on a walk. She's like, I know you're just imagining all these women naked on our walk. And he had to clarify, like, no, that's not what I do. And that's not what men do. And so I think what you're saying, Susanna, is so important to ask the kids or the teenagers what they already know, so that if there's these completely incorrect things that they've heard from a friend, from a teacher, from a student, just down the hallway or something, like, this is the time to help to hear that weird thought, and so that you can kindly correct them and get them on the right track.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because they're definitely hearing it at school.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You know, you guys made the comment about not just having one conversation, but many. And that's important because we're trying to build a relationship with our kids that they can come to us. They'll trust us by how we react. Right? So kiddo comes and says, hey, what does this word mean? Instead of going, oh my gosh, where did you hear that? Right? We can go, give me a minute, kiddo. Let's see. Okay. So
yeah, I've had to look up things my kids have told me. Yeah. Like I've never heard that before.
And here's the thing too. Sometimes we're not going to react perfectly. We can't put the stress on ourselves, be a perfect parent. That makes parenting worse. It's already hard. So if there's times when we didn't react perfectly, okay, we go back and we say, hey, you know, when you asked me what that word meant, I'm really sorry. I reacted really big. You're not in trouble. I'm learning how to manage myself.
Yeah.
And I should have handled that better. And that will show your child that apologizing, this is how you do it. This is how you apologize, right? Yeah. And yeah, lots of conversations about things. And they might be really quick, right? Depending on the kid, it might just be 5 minutes. In my experience, teenagers at my house like to download at like 11:30 at night. That's what we call it. Downloading is like, you don't see them all day. And then 11:30, they're like, oh, hey, mom. And then for like 90 minutes, there's just downloading. And I treasure that because they won't always be, young and going, hey, mom, let me download. So, yeah. Just to
one of the things that my husband and I do that I think is working really well for us, and so this is just an idea, maybe if people need ideas, is that we do like a little one-on-one interview with like parents and just one child at a time. We try to do it twice a year. Sometimes it's only once a year, where we have ice cream and we just sit and we chat and we ask them a series of questions every time. And one of them is how are your feelings doing? How's your spirit doing? Feelings is so if there's any like they feel something in our family that we don't know, we haven't picked up on, they have a chance to share. How's your spirit doing is like, is there something that's bothering your conscience that you want to talk to us about? And then how's your body doing? And we've started that from when they were like 3 years old, and it's like, oh, here's my owie, or this has been itchy, or my hair's growing in a different color now. And then as they've gotten older, it's like, okay, so you might need some deodorant now, or just so you know, your body's going to start changing. But they're already comfortable talking about their body with us because we've been asking them, how's your body doing, since they were 3. And so now it's really normal to talk to mom and dad one-on-one or with both of us there about their own body because we've established that from the beginning. And so that's worked really well for us. I don't know if that's helpful to anyone.
High five yourself.
One win, one parenting win.
Yeah, but it's good. That's good.
Yeah. And I would just say, and using like the correct terms for all the body parts too, instead of like, I don't know. How's your hot dog? I don't know.
Right. And the external genitalia for a woman is a vulva. so much in our culture we say vagina. That's the birth canal,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah, and so oftentimes
It
we're
sounds
actually
like
using
Sepulveda. I don't know. Every time I drive past this street, I'm like, ew. I don't want to drive on Vagina Street. Sepulveda. Come on. Vulva. Sounds the same. Sorry.
So, Dr. Susanna, I want to go back to something, if that's okay. You had
Sure.
mentioned earlier that about the discrepancy in desire is one of the biggest problem when you have couples come in. So what is a good idea if a couple wants to have hard conversation, important, deep conversations about sex before maybe going to a counselor, if they feel like they'd like to improve that aspect of their life? How do you recommend having those conversations? What questions to ask each other, in what environment? Like, should you already be having a romantic evening when you have this conversation? Should you just be going on a walk sometime? Like, what is a good way to have an open communication about differing expectations and maybe hopes for more things or different things, and then questions to ask?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. I
mean, I'm not trying to not have people come to you and pay you, but yeah, that's fine. No, I
not
get trying to kill your business.
No, not worried. Yeah, there's plenty of needs, so no worries. It just depends. Everybody's so different, right? But I think a really good principle is asking your partner. So spouse, because we're talking about LDS marriages, asking your spouse if it's a good time. Hey, honey, is this a good time to talk about our sex life? And it's nothing heavy. I just think it's is this a good time just so we can talk about it?
And I think every man will go, yes.
Yeah.
Is it
this is a great time?
Are we awake? Am I alive? Yep, we're talking.
Yeah. Are you a girl? Am I a boy? Then the answer is yes. Yeah. And so that's helpful to say, is this a good time? Because that way you can shift gears if you're thinking about something else, right? So if a wife is asking your husband, he just walked in the door from work, he might be in work mode. I don't know. But it gives him a chance to switch his transmission into another gear.
I like that. So have an opportunity, communicate when is a good time to have this conversation, so that, because it's important to have your brain there.
Right. And I've got a number of thoughts. So the other thought that comes to mind is what do we talk about, right? A couple ideas. One, you can start off with what you think is going well, right? Yeah. I really like it when you do this thing. I really like it when the kids are at grandma's and we do this stuff, right? What you like. And that's, for some women, that's going to be really anxiety producing. Like, oh my gosh, I like that. What does that mean? What does that say about myself? And I'm not making fun. I'm just dramatizing it because I think I'm funny. But but it's still okay for her to be able to express what she enjoys about sex with her spouse. And if she's anxious, then that's okay. We just keep practicing, right? We don't avoid something just because it makes us anxious. I mean, we want to, but the healthy thing is to not avoid it, but to keep practicing, keep exposing yourself to it. And then what do we talk about? What's going well? This is a great question. For maybe, let's say she's the one initiating conversation, for her to reflect on. If she were to ask herself, what would I need in order for sex to be something I can look forward to?
That's a great question.
She would probably have to think of that ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then bring that to the conversation. Yeah.
Well, and even just know it herself.
Yeah.
Know it herself.
That's what I'm saying. Think about it ahead of time, because that is a question that I'm sure many women can't answer off the top.
Yeah, that's
of their head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think it's interesting, this question of what do I need? Mm-hmm. I think the things that we need as women are non-sexual and sexual, right? They're so connected. The things, and so I want to come back to what you were saying earlier about how women need to learn how to ask for what they need and not feel selfish about it. We need to learn how to accept what we want.
Yes.
And receive it, because it's ours for the taking and we're missing out. We're missing out by being anxious and tired and exhausted. and not asking for what we need and not taking breaks. You were saying something in our conversation earlier, Susanna, about Jesus Christ in the boat. What were you talking about? We need to talk about this. It was so good.
Yeah. So just for some context, you and I were talking about women overgiving, and that I see that every day in my practice, that, there's this idea of, if I am so selfless that I give and give and give, and then I drop dead and my family goes, oh, she died doing what she loves the most, serving, right?
Oh, no.
She died serving. And so, I was like, well, but Jesus slept on a boat and so can I, right? Like if the church came to me and said,
Say it again.
Jesus slept on a boat and so can I.
Yes, that's great.
So
Yeah,
rest.
if the church came to me and said, you're so cool, what kind of a little video should we do? I say, do that one. Because one of the struggles we can have as women and as Latter-day Saint women is, love thy neighbor. Oh, we're awesome at that. Here's some soup. Here's some bread. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? As thyself. It's like we skip over that because we sometimes, some of us really struggle with that. But isn't that selfish? As thyself, right? What does that mean to love myself? And I think it means that your needs are just as important as anyone else's. And women will say, oh, but my kids, and I'm like, yeah, if the 2-year-old can't change himself, like I get that, but yeah, like, bro, get a job, you're 2, But there are times when we can be like, okay, what do I need? What fills my soul? My needs are important too.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's not selfish to say, I need time with my girlfriends. I need a massage. I need time alone. For the introverted people, I'm an extrovert. So I just think you just go to lunch. That's what you do. But for introverts, they need to charge by themselves. They need to not be taking care of other people. So maybe that's what they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also think it's a dance, right? I think a lot of it too is like, and then to also not to get too caught up in that where you vilify your husband's desire if he wants it more, because you're like, well, I'm taking care of myself and the kids, like you will come next, right? I think sometimes in the church too, we can I think women are built up in the church, as we should be, but then I think men often are vilified for their sexual desire, right? They always get, the don't watch porn talk, and we get the moms and wives, you're so beautiful and you're so outstanding, that I think sometimes we can vilify their sexual desire to where women, can almost like
Feel justified in
not shaking them
engaging.
off, and I don't think that's good either. So it's, like I said, it's a dance, trying to figure out that balance. So I'm going to ask you a question that I think everyone has asked themselves. How often should we be having it?
Everyone asks this.
I know, that's why I said everyone asks it, and everyone's like, well, I don't know. This is how much we do. I don't know.
What's the official sexologist answer?
Yeah, because everybody has their answer.
It was on your final exam.
Yeah.
And some people will tell you it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. It depends. What does the couple want, right? It sounds like I'm avoiding the question, but everyone is so different, and so there isn't a should. How often you can have sex is how often you want to. How often it's sex worth having, sex worth looking forward to, right? And so if you're like, gosh, we only have sex twice a week, is that okay? Is it okay with you, right? Is it a conversation you need to have with your spouse about frequency and things like that? And I think you said something important that I want to get back to too, about demonizing men's sexuality. I agree with that. I don't, let me give a caveat too. I don't have any negative feelings about any church leader talking about sex. It's got to be really super hard to be a watchman on the tower, and your job is make sure you teach people about sin. I've never had to do that. I want to give them like lots of grace, right? And so, but there's a lot of like helpful messages about sexuality, I think, in the last couple of years, and especially in the August 2020 Liahona. There's a number of articles about sexuality in there from BYU professor Elder Rasband and his spouse talking about sexuality. So I think there is a need for, let's talk about the healthy aspects of sexuality, and I think there's efforts there.
Dr. Susanna, I love that you said there is no number, right?
There's no number.
Up to the spouse, because it makes me think that I was reading a book, and in the book it said a certain number. It said once a week, and I was like, oh, that's low. And then I remember my friend saying, who was having struggles, you know, in her sexual relationship. She's like, when I was engaged, this man said, it's got to be 4 times a week. And so when there's a number in someone's head, I think it can and they bring that number to their relationship, it can really mess with things. And so I really love that you said, it depends on the couple. What do you want?
What do you want?
Decide together and make it happen. And I love how much the sex worth wanting. I love that. I love that everyone needs to ask themselves, like, is this something worth making even better? Is this a part of our relationship worth strengthening, making more fun, making more creative, making more beautiful, making more pleasurable? Like, ask yourself that. If that is worth it to you, then law of the harvest, right? Put in the research, put in the conversations, put in the podcasts, put in the experimentation with each other. Like, it can be as glorious and fun and amazing as you both want it to be.
Yes. Nice. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And I think as women, giving ourselves permission to have a really good orgasm as often as possible. Like, I think it comes back to that permission to receive. Like, if it's good, why wouldn't we want it often? And so if it's not good, then let's fix that. And if it is good, give yourself permission to have good often.
Yeah, right. Gosh, and there's so much there about giving yourself permission, because it could go down, the women that struggle with it, there's a number of reasons, right, why they might struggle with it, how they view themselves, like, oh my gosh, I can't enjoy sexual pleasure, that makes me fill in the blank. So there can be that, there can be it's really complicated as far as if a woman struggles with that receiving pleasure. There's a lot of reasons, and yes, I think you're correct with that sexual pleasure is a good thing. It's a good thing. And so I think there's this idea out there that I see, that it's like sex belongs to Satan, like dirty and naughty, doing the deed and right and all that. There's just this kind of idea of like, it's in Satan's territory. And I'm like, he steals things. It wasn't his. It isn't his.
Right.
And God gave, this stewardship to Adam and Eve. Sex is God's idea. It's not Satan's, but he wants you to think it is.
That's interesting that you say that being ashamed about it and thinking that it's bad and dirty is an idea from Satan, but also thinking it's for everyone all time at any place is also from Satan. Like, the good that God tells us, marriage is between a married man and a woman. Like, Satan goes on either side of that. It's a very good, wonderful thing in marriage. His lies are all around it. He's twisted it in every way.
Yes.
I'm going to start viewing Satan as just a sexually frustrated virgin now, because he doesn't have a body.
He doesn't have a body.
Oh,
he's very angry. He's very pent up. So
trying to ruin it for us because he can't have it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think also that some of the bad ideas don't come from our church, but actually may come from other religious beliefs surrounding it. We have in the Discord actually a couple examples of this from other Christian traditions where we are actually quite unique in our theology about the body and the unity of the body and the soul, and the body being good. Because in so many traditions, it's the spirit is good, the body is terrible, evil, awful. We can't wait to be rid of it. And so our theology actually lends itself very well to a healthy sexuality, because we have that combination of body and spirit being good, and the unity of them being good, and then the unity of man and woman being like ultimate good.
Yes.
Like that is a sacrament. That is a incredibly powerful, beautiful, wonderful thing. For example, we've got examples in the Discord here. Let's see what we've got. Matrimony is impure and unholy. It means a means to sensual passion. So that's already like insinuating that sensual passion is bad right out of the gate. Wedlock is below virginity. This is Saint Jerome. Marriage is always a vice. All that can be done is to excuse it and sanctify it. This is kind of small. I printed it out here. Martin Luther. Nor are man's sexual relations sinless in marriage either. It is only that God embellishes. Oh, I cannot read this. Can someone else see
Embellishes
it?
them out of grace.
There we go. It keeps going.
And then a married couple can also, Martin Luther, a married couple cannot sleep together without shameful desire, even though they both want to live together blamelessly. So this is Martin Luther. I mean, these were early religious fathers who believed that the body is a prison. It is a dirty, filthy thing that we just is a prison for our soul, and one day we'll be released of it. And so that's why celibacy was so elevated, is because it was not giving in to these carnal, sinful desires. And if you had to get married, I mean, you just have to put up with it and get through it. Whereas in our theology, like when you were talking, I love what you said, Brittany, is that so often male desire is vilified.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
We are made in the image of our heavenly parents. Men are made in the image of God, and we are made in the image of a goddess. And our bodies are not mistakes. Like there are not parts in our bodies when we're born that are mistakes. And so these sexual desires that we have within us are gifts from God.
Yes.
And the fact that they're different is not a mistake. And God has a plan with all of this. And it's just so beautiful to know that our bodies were built as sexual beings, and that part of us is God-given and beautiful and encouraged by God.
Yes. 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 Because excellent. That's like, amen, sister. Amen, sister. The law of chastity isn't just don't. It's the law of chastity is sexual relations are sacred between a husband and wife in order to create families and create a bond for their marriage, have a closer marriage. And so the law of chastity isn't just don't. It's also, this is the purpose. This is the do. There's a do.
Yeah. I just want to read something. I was looking a lot, and I hope we can do another episode about this.
Sure.
I made a big list. It says LDS sex can be the best sex.
Okay.
And I've got this big list, and part of it is about our unique, beautiful theology. And I scoured the church website and the church handbook and LDS tools, thinking maybe that I'd find something negative or restricting or condemning, like nothing. It was all so positive. And this is the best thing that I found from the church website under the article, Sexual Intimacy is Sacred and Beautiful.
Yes.
It
I
says,
love that one.
God intends for sex to be a beautiful, powerful, and joyful part of our lives, not something evil or corrupt. Sex enables a husband and wife to have children, express love, and strengthen their spiritual, emotional, and physical bonds.
Yes.
Sexual intimacy is an important part of marriage, and when it is used in the way that God has commanded, it brings great blessings and joy.
Yes.
So I think that is a huge stamp of approval from
Yes.
Heavenly Father. Like, enjoy.
Yes.
Enjoy this gift.
Yes. I love that quote so much. And I love that you brought it up. We're authorized, once we've been married, we're authorized to use the power God has given us. That sexual power, the sexual relationship, we're authorized. It's like stamp, right? This is what it's for.
I feel like we still have so much with that we could talk about.
Yes.
So much more.
Like we're just
to talk
scratching
about.
the surface right now.
I bit off
Yeah.
half my tongue. I still have more to ask, so I can't wait to see you again.
Oh, I bet you've got good questions. I want to know what they are.
Yeah, I mean, Cardin got me on film talking about being single, holding a temple recommend, and how to manage all of that. And I made the point to say, hey, I have to talk a lot with, a potential future forever man, and about the potential gift that we're giving each other upon matrimony. So I have questions for you, hon. I'll see you on the flip side of a Pop-Tart.
And Susanna, where can we find you? How can we get help from you?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. olivebranchcoachingidaho.com. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Susanna, for coming on. We're going to have a lot more episodes, I hope. It was so fun having you on. Thank you so much. For this and more, check us out at wordradio.com.